White Jews from the United States of America visits Anambra State their route. This news update explores the theory that Igbo people might be one of the lost tribes of Israel, a topic that has been debated for years. A group of American Jews recently visited Anambra State, Nigeria, to connect with Igbo people, believing they share Jewish ancestry. There are conflicting opinions on whether the Igbo are Jewish. Some claim historical and cultural ties, while others, including an Igbo king, argue against it. Meanwhile, some critics are actively researching this topic by reading books, asking questions, and plans to provide more concrete evidence in future. Some theories suggest the Igbo migrated from southern Africa with ancestral ties to the Koran, San, and Swahili tribes, rather than directly from Israel. Both Judaism and Igbo traditional beliefs are considered monotheistic, but some argue Igbo spirituality also includes the worship of deities. Parallels between Igbo and Jewish customs include male circumcision, Sabbath observance by some Igbo groups, and strong community values. Both Jewish and Igbo cultures emphasize social responsibility, charity, and community support as core values. Some critics also note that ancient Jewish traditions included animal sacrifices, and similar practices are found in Igbo traditional religion. It all started on a bright, warm morning in Anambra State, Nigeria. The streets of Awka, the capital city, were buzzing as usual. Market women arranged their goods in neat rows, traders called out to potential customers, and the aroma of freshly cooked jollof rice and suya filled the air. It was a typical day until something unusual happened. A group of white visitors, dressed in traditional Jewish attire, arrived in the city. At first, people assumed they were just tourists, maybe researchers or business people. But as the group moved through the streets, talking to the locals and taking in the sights, it became clear that this wasn't an ordinary visit. These people were here for something much deeper, something connected to the roots of the Igbo people themselves. The visitors were white Jews from the United States of America, and they had traveled thousands of miles because they believed the Igbo people of Nigeria were their long-lost relatives. It was a claim that had been discussed for years, debated in history books, whispered about in academic circles, and even mentioned in religious discussions. But now it wasn't just talk. These Americans had come to see for themselves if there was any truth to the idea that the Igbo were one of the lost tribes of Israel. At first, the people of Anambra State didn't know what to make of it. Some were excited, curious to learn more about the visitors' perspective. Others were skeptical. Could it really be true that the Igbo people, one of the most prominent ethnic groups in Nigeria, had Jewish ancestry? The question hung in the air like thick harmattan dust. The Jewish visitors, led by a man named David Goldberg, a historian and religious scholar, were not just on a sightseeing tour. They had done their research before coming. They had read about the similarities between Igbo traditions and Jewish customs. They had studied old documents and spoken to people who believed in the connection. And now they were here, ready to experience it firsthand. David Goldberg, a man in his mid-50s with sharp blue eyes and a long beard, stood in the middle of the busy Nkwo market, looking around in awe. He turned to his colleague, a woman named Rachel Stein, and said, "This place feels familiar. It's strange, but I feel like we've been here before." Rachel Stein, a researcher in African history, nodded. "That's because a lot of what we're seeing here mirrors what we know about Jewish life. Look at how the families interact, how the people value community. It's like we're seeing reflections of our own culture." One of the locals, an elderly man named Chief Okonkwo Eze, approached them with curiosity. He had been listening to their conversation and was intrigued by their presence. "You say you are Jews?" he asked in his deep, authoritative voice. David Goldberg smiled. "Yes, we are. And we believe that your people, the Igbo, might be one of the lost tribes of Israel." Chief Okonkwo Eze stroked his grey beard and let out a low chuckle. "I have heard this before. Many people have come here with this story. Some say we are from Israel. Some say we are from Egypt. Some even say we are from Ethiopia. But tell me, what makes you think the Igbo are Jews?" David Goldberg took a deep breath, as if preparing for a long discussion. "There are many reasons," he began. "First, the Igbo practice male circumcision, just like the Jewish people. That tradition is something we have always associated with the ancient Israelites. Second, some Igbo communities observe a day of rest, similar to the Jewish Sabbath." Rachel Stein added, "And then there's the belief in one supreme God. In Judaism we call him Yahweh. The Igbo call him Chukwu or Chineke. The concept is very similar." Chief Okonkwo Eze listened carefully, nodding slowly. He had heard these arguments before, but there was something about the passion in these visitors' voices that made him want to hear more. "But," he said after a moment, "there are differences too. The Igbo people also believe in deities, spirits that serve as messengers of Chukwu. That is not the same as Judaism." David Goldberg nodded. "David Goldberg, that's true. And that's why we're here, to learn more, to see if we can understand the deeper connections." As the day went on, the visitors explored more of Anambra State, meeting with different Igbo leaders, elders, and religious figures. Some welcomed the idea of a Jewish connection, while others dismissed it completely. One of the loudest voices against the theory was Igwe Emmanuel Nwosu, a respected Igbo king. Sitting on his grand throne in his palace, dressed in rich traditional attire, he spoke with the authority of a leader who had studied his people's history well. "The Igbo are not Jews," he stated firmly. "Our people have their own identity. We have our own traditions that go back centuries. Yes, we have some similarities with Jewish customs, but that does not mean we came from Israel. The Igbo have their own path, their own origin." His words carried weight, but they did not silence the conversation. The debate had been going on for too long, and there were too many people who believed otherwise. Some researchers had suggested that the Igbo actually migrated from southern Africa, not Israel. They claimed that the Igbo had connections to the Quran, San, and Swahili tribes, and that their traditions had developed separately from Judaism. This was another angle to the story, another piece of the puzzle that made it all even more complicated. But while scholars argued back and forth, the visitors continued their journey, eager to experience as much as possible. They attended Igbo traditional ceremonies, witnessed cultural performances, and even participated in religious rituals. They spoke to ordinary people, listened to their stories, and tried to make sense of it all. One of the most touching moments of their trip came when they visited a small Igbo village where an elder named Papa Chibuzo told them a story passed down from his ancestors. "Our fathers always said that we came from a land far away, a place where the sun was different," Papa Chibuzo said, his voice soft but steady. "They told us that we traveled across many lands before settling here. Maybe that land was Israel, maybe it was somewhere else, but we have always known that we are a special people." Rachel Stein wiped a tear from her eye. "That's beautiful," she said. By the time the American Jews were preparing to leave, they still didn't have all the answers. But one thing was certain. Their journey had been an eye-opening experience. As they stood at the airport, waiting for their flight back to the United States of America, David Goldberg turned to Rachel Stein and said, "We may never know the full truth, but what matters is that we have built a bridge between our people. Whether the Igbo are Jewish or not, we are connected in spirit." Rachel Stein nodded. "Yes, and maybe that's more important than any history book or DNA test." Back in Nigeria, the conversation continued. Some people embraced the Jewish connection, while others rejected it. Researchers kept searching for evidence, reading ancient texts and comparing traditions. But in the end, the visit had done something incredible. It had sparked a new level of curiosity about the history of the Igbo people. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of a new chapter in the story of the Igbo and their place in the world. As the plane carrying David Goldberg, Rachel Stein, and the rest of the American Jewish visitors took off from Akanu Ibiam International Airport, a sense of fulfillment mixed with lingering questions filled their hearts. They had come to Nigeria with the hope of finding a direct link between the Igbo people and the lost tribes of Israel, and though they had encountered both acceptance and skepticism, they were leaving with a deeper understanding of the Igbo identity. For the people of Anambra State, the visit had stirred curiosity, debate, and, for some, even a sense of pride. The idea that their traditions, their customs, and their way of life could be linked to something as ancient and significant as Judaism was both fascinating and controversial. Conversations about the topic spread beyond Anambra, reaching other parts of Nigeria, from Enugu to Lagos, and even beyond the borders of the country. In markets, in churches, in village squares, and even on radio stations, people discussed the visit of the American Jews. Some called it a revelation, a confirmation of what had been whispered in hidden corners for centuries. Others dismissed it as just another theory, no different from the many that had come before. One of the most passionate voices in this conversation was an Igbo historian named Dr. Chinedu Okafor. Dr. Chinedu Okafor had spent decades researching the origins of the Igbo people. He had traveled across West Africa, spoken to elders, and read ancient texts. He believed that the Igbo had a rich and unique history, one that could not be easily traced to just one source. The Igbo people are an ancient people, Dr. Chinedu Okafor said during a radio interview in Onitsha. We have influences from different civilizations. Some of our customs resemble those of the Jews, yes, but we also have elements that connect us to other African groups. The truth is not as simple as saying we are one of the lost tribes of Israel. Our history is more complex than that. But not everyone agreed with him. In another part of Anambra State, a young Igbo man named Obinna Nwachukwu had recently discovered his own personal connection to Judaism. He had grown up in a Christian household, like many Igbo people, but after hearing stories about Igbo Jewish connections, he started doing his own research. I read everything I could find, Obinna Nwachukwu said passionately. I watched documentaries, I spoke to elders, and I even started practicing some Jewish customs. The more I learned, the more I realized that there were too many similarities to ignore. Obinna Nwachukwu was one of a growing number of Igbo people who had embraced Judaism, not just as a cultural connection, but as a religious identity. Across Nigeria, small communities of Igbo Jews were emerging, practicing traditional Jewish customs, celebrating Jewish holidays, and even learning Hebrew. One of these communities was led by an elder named Rabbi Moshe ben Avraham, an Igbo man who had studied Judaism extensively. Rabbi Moshe ben Avraham had dedicated his life to teaching Igbo people about the Jewish faith, believing strongly that they were descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. Our ancestors knew who they were, Rabbi Moshe ben Avraham often said. But over time, colonialism, slavery, and religious conversion made us forget. Now, we are remembering. However, as the movement to embrace Judaism grew among some Igbo people, so did the resistance. Traditional Igbo leaders, Christian clergy, and even some academics pushed back against the idea that the Igbo were Jewish. One of the strongest voices against the theory was Archbishop Emmanuel Okechukwu of the Anglican Church in Nigeria. During a Sunday service in Nnewi, he addressed the growing debate. "My brothers and sisters," Archbishop Emmanuel Okechukwu said, standing at the pulpit, "let us not be carried away by every wind of doctrine. The Igbo people have a strong Christian heritage. Let us focus on our faith in Jesus Christ and not be distracted by these foreign ideas." His words resonated with many, especially those who had grown up in the church and saw Christianity as the foundation of their identity. For them, the idea of embracing Judaism felt like abandoning their faith. But despite the opposition, the conversation refused to die. It had been reignited by the visit of the American Jews, and now more people than ever were asking questions. Was there historical evidence? Could DNA tests provide answers? What did ancient texts say about the origins of the Igbo? As the debate continued, a group of scholars decided to take the investigation further. A Nigerian geneticist named Dr. Ifeanyi Ozuemena, along with a team of international researchers, announced a new project, a DNA study to trace the genetic origins of the Igbo people. "We need scientific evidence," Dr. Ifeanyi Ozuemena said during a press conference in Abuja. "Stories and traditions are important, but DNA can give us concrete answers. We will be collecting samples from Igbo people across different regions and comparing them with known Jewish genetic markers. This will be the most comprehensive study ever conducted on this topic." The announcement was met with excitement and skepticism. Some people believed that DNA would finally prove the truth one way or another. Others argued that history and identity could not be reduced to genetics alone.
I'm gonna do a small, quick video. Give me a second. 1 second here. So I'm gonna count down from 3. Once I go to 1, then you say the solution is here. Alright, ready? I know, a little production. Alright, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, my dear Biafrans. I'm coming tonight to discuss very fascinating and important topic, which is similarities between Jewish life and Igbo life. Now, if you've been following Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, you might remember when he said that Igbo people are one of the 12 lost tribes of Israel, which means Igbo people are descendants of God, which means
I will tell you that the Igbo tribe, truly, they are ancient tribe, because the Igbo tribe we have today are migrants, or they migrated from the original tribe, because we had only 3 major tribes ever, the oldest tribe ever recorded in the history of time. We had 3 major tribes, and of the oldest is the Kosan tribe. And the Kosan tribe were the Haba tribe, were the medicine men. They are currently called the Bush tribe. That was the tribe that the Igbo migrated from. Because the Igbo never came from the east, neither did they came from the north, neither did they come from the west. They migrated along the coasts of southern Africa there. But the original tribe was from the eastern Africa, the Kosan tribe, the South African, the Swahili, the San tribe, the Botswana, partly Kenya, the Zimbabwe. That is why when you look at these cultures, these people, Kenya, Botswana, South Africa, Cameroon, Dan, they have similar spirituality, which is totally different from the Benin, the Yorubas, the Ghana, the Mali, the Igbo, the exact 3 main Igbo migrants. They came at a different century to where they are. Just like the Benin came, the Yoruba came, and then the Igala started walking out. Part of the Yoruba started walking out of the Benin. But all of us within the Niger Congo came from the same ancestry. But there was something that happened. Parts of the Mali, Ghana, and the Central Africa enjoined with us, and that is why you see similarities between the Niger Congo language and the Bantu language. But I will tell you with every sincerity of my heart that the Bantu language, the Yoruba, the Igbo, and all of those, the Benin language, is not a Bantu language.
I am learning about Judaism. I am starting to notice those similarities. And one of the most important things, well, this is really a basic that we should just start with, is the fact that Judaism is a monotheistic religion, and that's a widely known fact. And Igbo people believe in Chineke, which is God the Creator. And in my own understanding, Igbo traditional religion is monotheistic. It seems pretty obvious to me, actually. But I've seen some videos circulating online stating Otherwise, like this video.
The Igbo people believe in a supreme god called Chukwu. They also worship various deities called Alusi for different aspects of life.
So that's a little bit confusing, and please write some explanations in comment. I would really appreciate it. Let's learn together. I was actually wondering if maybe that's happening because actually Christianity itself tried to demonize Igbo traditional beliefs. So maybe that's some residue out of it. I don't know. Again, please explain in comments. Very interestingly, both Jewish and Igbo people are circumcised. Now, is it a coincidence? In my personal opinion, given other things and giving other cultural similarities, I don't think that's a coincidence. But there are other communities in this world that do circumcise, that practice circumcision, and they have nothing to do with Judaism or monotheism for the matter. So I don't know. What do you think? I also wanted to ask you about Sabbath, because obviously Christians celebrate Sunday as the holiday, but I've read somewhere that some Igbo people celebrate Sabbath. I don't know if it's because they are Jewish or because they are traditionalists who celebrate Sabbath. Please let us know what you know. I can't give you a source of this information. I just read it a long time ago somewhere in an article, and it just kind of got stuck in my head. Another very distinctive similarity I've noticed is how community-oriented Igbo and Jewish people are. Like a lot of Jewish people, apart from following 613 commandments, they also, it's just part of normal lifestyle to contribute to society, support other people. Therefore, a lot of Jewish people are in charities, for example. And you know better than me how community-oriented Igbo people are. And, you know, it's something you really have to experience it to know what I'm talking about, because I think all of the nations really consider themselves being family and community-oriented. I thought Polish people are so, and well, we are to the extent, but when you get to know Igbo culture, you can really see the difference. That's the whole new level. And that's why when I found out about that Jewish people live like this, that struck me right away, that this is how Igbo people live too. And the last thing might be controversial in 2024, but we cannot really dismiss it. It's very important. Jewish people used to practice animal sacrifice, at least before the temple got destroyed. Now, I've heard multiple times that Igbo traditionalists, so Igbos who follow traditional religion, they also practice animal sacrifice. So I'm very interested to know more about that. And that's the whole list I made today. The most important thing is actually what you are going to write. Your comments are the most important thing, your experiences and your knowledge and your contribution to this topic. So please, everybody, let's go down there to the comment section and read what is everyone writing. Thank you so much. Dalu.
All right.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.